Aha! We are back. We are back to learning the houses in the house. This is week 2 of House 1. If you haven't watched the prologue or week 1 foundations of House 1, you have to go back and look at them. They are the foundations for the whole series, and last week is the foundation for the rest of this house. It really broke down the basics, the base of what you need to know. Because we built necessary structure in those episodes. In the prologue and week 1, there is necessary structure for us to keep on building. In the prologue, we clarified the difference between the house systems and interpretive style. So important for you to understand any of what we're doing. And then in the last video, we established the first house is the ascendant. So cool that we know that now. And it's the point rising on the eastern horizon, the place of self, of body, of physical vitality, of presence, and how you enter life. It is the tone of the entryway and the style of the actual threshold to your life. But this week we are actually going to layer in the nuance. Now we're actually asking, if the first house is the front door, who is standing in that doorway? What happens at the front door, right? Because some homes have a quiet entryway. Some homes have plants and arts and music playing. Some homes have someone greeting you immediately, someone right there, hey, welcome in. Some feel electric, some feel serious. All of them are different and unique and nuanced in their own way. Planets in the first house are the energies that greet people when they encounter you. And that's what we're talking about this week. So we already talked about the first house being angular last week. And so before we talk about planets, we're just going to get one quick reminder. The first house is angular. It sits on the ascendant, which is one of the structural pillars of the chart. Remember, the ascendant, the descendant, the IC, and the MC are the structural pillars of the chart. So in traditional houses, the angular houses 1, 4, 7, and 10 are considered strong and active because they're tied to the angles of the chart. Okay, so this means that if the rising sign is the front door, then planets in the first house are standing in the doorway right with you. They are right there. You know when like someone comes over to the house and you like don't know who's there, and so you open the door and then somebody else who lives in your house comes behind you looking like, who's here? That's exactly what those planets do, and that's what we're about to talk about. Planets in the first house are not subtle. They are visible, they are embodied, and they show up on your face, in your posture, and in your first impression. So really remember and think about that. That means anything placed there is not hidden in the back of the house. It's not hidden. It's not like, oh, let me put this up so nobody sees it. No, everybody's going to see exactly what planets are in your first house because it's at the entrance. So I want to make an important distinction between sign versus planet because some confusion usually starts around this. The rising sign sets the style of your presence. It describes the design of the door. It describes what's happening at the doorway. But planets in the first house describe who is standing there when someone knocks, like I just said. So me, Leo rising, is warm, expressive entry into life. Moon in the first house, which is what I also have, is emotional tone becomes more visible. And I did preface that or talk about that a little bit in the first week because yes, I have the ascendant and I'm warm and I'm sunny because of the Leo rising and the sun being my chart ruler. But because the moon is also there, my emotional tone becomes so visible. It is worn on I become readable. I'm very readable most of the time. And if you, so let's say also have like, for another example, this isn't my case, but if you had Saturn in the first house, then seriousness would become visible. So the different planets that are there are going to add little nuance to why people interpret you the way that they do or why you come off the way that you do. Even if you're like, man, like I really am a deep person and, you know, I really want people to connect with me. But if there's something in you that is like makes you more humorous, makes you more of a person that has a sense of humor on face value, somebody who doesn't want to get too deep on face value, then that's going to change who you truly like are at your core and when you're comfortable. So the planets are really going to shift things here. What it is, it's same house, but very, very different layering. Me and 5, 10, 12 other people could be Leo rising, but depending on the makeup of our planets in the first house, in our first house, we're all going to probably display differently. And so I'm so excited and so looking forward to adding more people to the community and just connecting and discussing with more people so that I can meet some other people who are like, wait a minute, I'm Leo rising too, but I'm nothing like you. Oh, that's because my sun is in whatever, or that's because I also have Pluto, Mercury, whatever in my first house. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is so interesting, and every little detail does actually matter in astrology. None of it is going to override the rising sign, though. It actually just continues to work with it. So now I'm going to explain the planetary flavors of the first house. Like, that's, the flavor of what's going to really change up and how you're going to express and why. This is not going to be a good versus bad thing. I'm going to explain it in a constructive versus stressed expression. So constructive expression is like something that you're working with and it's building and it's, I would say more positive. But a stressed expression, obviously people don't think about that generally as a positive thing. So I don't want to say it as good or bad, constructive versus stressed. So this is regulated versus dysregulated, integrated versus unintegrated. And I do believe that breaking this down in the way that I'm going to break it down will help you see like, oh, I see that I do display that because I have that planet in my first house, but it's unintegrated or it's a dysregulated expression versus you being like, oh, okay, I have that and I display that in a very regulated way. So let me break it down for you. The sun in the first house, constructive expression would be strong sense of identity, a comfortable being visible, leadership energy, clear self-definition. That's how it is in constructive. But when the sun is stressed and in the first house, there's going to be over-identifying with image, ego defensiveness, feeling threatened when unseen. Listen. Guilty, because my sun is my chart ruler. So even though my sun isn't in the first house, there have definitely, and my Chiron is in the first house, and we'll get to that later, but there have been many, many times where I feel threatened when unseen. And that is just because, it was dysregulated. The sun part of me in the first house was dysregulated. And there also could be a constant need to assert, I am this, I am that, to like constantly show who you are. That's a stress expression of sun in first house. So when the sun stands in the doorway, becoming seen is a part of the life story. Say for instance, okay, let me pause for a second. Go get your chart if you don't have your chart. I can't. Every single time you come in this house, in House 12, every time you come in the community, or every time you're looking at one of these videos, you need to have your chart handy because I'm getting down to business, especially week 2 and after. The moon in the first house, constructive expression, is going to be emotionally attuned, responsive in presence, expressive face and body language. Like it really is all regulated and attuned, and you're present and you're responsive in an appropriate way. Strong instincts like that. But when you have a moon in first house and it becomes stressed, it's going to express as mood-driven behavior, overreactive, overreactivity, taking everything personally, and emotional transparency that actually feels overwhelming. So the moon in the doorway makes your emotional state harder to hide. Hi, it's me again. That's me. Remember I said that I have my moon in my first house and how I'm very readable and I wear my emotions right on me? Yeah, so when everything is stressed, I'll be taking everything personally, or used to. If it's dysregulated, absolutely I was. But when it's regulated, then I can have that responsive presence. I can have the emotional attunement that I can take in other people's things or respond to other people. Even if I feel something internally, I can try not to show it so much on my face, or try not to show it so much in the way that I respond to people. It really, really matters. Not only the planets that are in there, but if they are expressing in a constructive way or in a stressed way. So moon in the doorway makes your emotional state harder to hide. Sorry, babes, not sorry. Mercury in the first house. Your constructive expression is going to be quick thinking, verbal clarity, expressive face, youthful or curious demeanor. But if you have Mercury in the first house and it's a stressed expression, you might have nervous energy. There might be over talking. There might be mental restlessness or over identifying with your intellect. Mercury in the first shows up as visible mental activity. So it's more so in your head than on your face. You know what I'm saying? So moon was on your face. Sun was overall like, do you see me? I'm shining. And Mercury is a little bit more so in your head. Venus in the first house, constructive expression is going to be pleasant presence, aesthetic awareness, ease in social settings, natural relational magnetism. I feel like these are like your social folks. These are your little butterflies that are going to, hey, y'all love me. You love seeing me. I love talking to you. I love hanging out. But a stressed expression is going to be people pleasing, over focus on their appearance. Let's just note this. Y'all see me all these episodes, all these lessons, learning the houses in the house. Bruh, I don't care. I'm wearing my little robe, whatever you want to call it. It used to be called a Snuggie back in the day, and it is what it is. I'm just trying to get the message across. But I bet you if I had Venus in my first house, I would care a whole lot more about my appearance, especially how I appear on video. So over focus on appearance, avoiding conflict to maintain likability, or seeking validation through their charm. Venus in the first house makes relationship energy part of your identity field. So you prioritize and focus on your relationship identity, how you're showing up to other people more than people who don't have Venus in the first house. Whew, kind of glad I don't have that. Love y'all though. Okay, Mars in the first house, constructive expression is going to be directness, initiative, physical vitality, courage in self-expression. So these are the people who are the no bullshit people. These are the people who are going to get straight to it, not because they're mean, not because they don't care, not because they're selfish, not because they're arrogant, just because they are direct people. They take initiative and they're just like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I set out to do. Let's accomplish the mission. If it's a stressed expression, though, it's going to come off as impulsivity. They're still trying to accomplish something, but it's going to be a little bit more impulsive. Impulsivity, anger visible on the surface, confrontational tone, acting before they reflect. So a Mars in the first means that you don't enter quietly. You enter with a purpose. And whether it's stressed or constructive, you're going to enter and people are going to know, oh, they're serious about getting done what they are saying they want to get done. Jupiter in the first house, constructive expression is going to be expansive presence, optimism, encouraging energy, generosity of spirit. These are the people who are, it's going to be okay. These are our encouragers. These are our motivators. These are our people saying like, you know what? Let's look at it bigger picture. Let's zoom out. Who did I say had Jupiter in the first house? Or who's Jupiter ruler? Aha, remember? Bob Marley, Sagittarius rising, Jupiter is his chart ruler. Oh, optimism, encouraging energy, generosity of spirit, it lines right up. But a stressed expression is going to be overconfidence, excess, just general excess, taking up more space than necessary. Like these are, when it's stressed out, inflating identity. These are people who puff their chest out and you look at them like, who made you the main character? Those are those people. So when the people who have Jupiter in their first house, or you see people like that, you can easily identify like they gotta be Jupiter first house because they're doing a lot. They are absolutely just doing a lot. Jupiter in the first amplifies the field around you. It's not their fault though. It's really not their fault. They just maybe are in a stressed expression and they're trying to regulate themselves and get to a more regulated expression of it. But if it's dysregulated and you see them puffing their chest out saying, see me, look at me. I'm the confident, I'm the person. I know everything and I'm doing everything right. Yeah, maybe not. Saturn in the first house, constructive expression is going to be maturity, composure, discipline, Strong boundaries. These are going to be our wise people. These people who are like, wow, you're just like wise beyond your years. Those are probably the Saturn in the first house folks, when it's regulated, when it's constructive. But let's see. A stressed expression of Saturn in the first house is going to be rigidity, guarded posture, feeling judged or judging oneself constantly, because Saturn in the first makes presence feel serious or intentional. They know that they have purpose. They know that they're showing up for a reason. They're mature. They're disciplined. These are the people who lead by example. However, if they don't want to embody the fact that they are sent here, coded to lead by example and be the mature ones in their group, they're going to be a mess. They're going to be a mess. They're going to judge themselves. They're going to be self-conscious. They're not going to know, because ultimately you have to embody who you are in order to express it in a constructive way. I got like 3 more. Uranus in the first house, constructive expression is going to be authenticity, individuality, innovative self-expression, unique presence. I love the Uranus folks, because the Uranus folks, I have this phrase that I say, stay weird folks. Those are the people. Those are mostly the people. My Uranus people are the people who show up in all sorts of different, like, they don't care about how they show up in their wardrobe and their appearance, meaning like the real ones you call like eclectic. Those are our Uranus in the first house people. Usually the ones you're like, man, how are you so cool? How is your fashion so cool? Your fashion style so cool. How did you think to make your hair like that? How did you think to put that outfit together like that? Those are the Uranus and the first people, probably. And some of those content creators you see that just like have these really, really unique ideas for content and videos and things like that. Probably your Uranus in the first people, more than likely. However, when they're stressed, it's going to be instability, abrupt behavior, rejection of structure for its own sake, identity shifts that feel chaotic. So those are the people who are just going to feel like, I don't want to do anything that everybody else does. And they're going to feel like upset about it, because they're not supposed to be walking in line with everybody else. They're supposed to be the individuals and innovative in their self-expression. And if they are not fully expressing that, then it's going to build up and it's going to feel like, I don't know who I am, just because they're not being authentic to themselves. So Uranus in the first resists being boxed in. Don't box those folks in. Please don't box those babies in. Neptune in the first house, constructive expression, is going to be kind of mystique. They have compassion. They have innovative presence. Neptune is all about like the spirituality and the mystical world. And so those people are just going to be a little bit more about their mysticism and a little bit more about the intuition and what's going on intuitively, and kind of just taking in what's going on outside, but focusing more on their dream world inside. A lot of our Pisces people have Neptune in the first house. They usually have soft, permeable energy. But if they are stressed, if it's stressed expression, there's going to be confusion about their identity. They are going to be misread or projected onto because of the fact that they are so about their inner world. So then people in the outer world will project onto them, because they're not really knowing who they are and how to express it on the outside, because they spend so much time in the inner world. There's going to be boundary diffusion. Those are the people who have difficulty like saying no, or they always just go with stuff they don't even want to do. The boundary diffusion, or escaping into fantasy self-images. Neptune in the first can blur the lines between who you are and who others imagine you to be. These people have to focus so hard on the balance between their inner and outer world, or pulling what is inside of them and bringing it outside, because they will interact with so many people in the outer world, especially those people who I just said have those puffed up self, overconfident. They are the people who are saying, focus on me. And if you're surrounded by people like that, as a Neptune in your first house, you're kind of going to think like, maybe I can try that too, but that's not for you. It's not going to work out if you try to do it that way. So think about and focus on what planets are in your first house. My last one, I got Pluto in the first house. Pluto in the first house, constructive expression, is going to be depth. These are the deep folks. Psychological awareness, transformative presence, intensity that draws in. These are your intense folks. Okay, Pluto is associated with Scorpio, right? And we're deep. We are deep. Ultimately, yes. Even though it's not in my first house, I can relate to this. These people are just deep. They're all about the psychology of the mind. What's going on? What makes people this way? What makes people tick? What makes people the way that they are? What makes people forgive? What makes people fall in love? What makes people choose the path they choose? They're going to be all about transformation and growth and just like, it's just so intense in who they are, and they really just can't even help it. But in a stressed expression, they might have control issues because of that intensity. There might be power struggles because of that intensity, and because they are like, hey, I'm focusing on the psychology of it all, and other people will interpret that as psychological or power struggles. And so then there might be an intimidating aura, and they're not trying to do anything intimidating in a sense. They just are being who they are, but they maybe are a little bit dysregulated. And so their aura comes off more intimidating than soft or permeable like our Neptune folks. So Pluto in the first rarely goes unnoticed. Think about people you know, and maybe who you think might have Pluto in their first house. And then I want to talk about the Chiron. I talked about quickly or briefly what Chiron was. Chiron is our deepest wounds. It is where we are vulnerable and insecure. And it brings all of that up. Whatever house it is in, that house is going to be more stressed, okay? That house is just generally going to be more stressed. Look for the Chiron, it's the little K in your birth chart. And we all have them. But it also is our greatest potential for healing and growth. So me personally, I'm like focusing heavy on my first house because Chiron is in my first. And I really want to make sure that I heal and grow from that because it is where my deepest vulnerabilities and my deepest insecurities are. And so the Chiron expression is identity shaped by lived wisdom. I got to keep living through certain things and learning the lessons, and then I will come out with the wisdom of how to actually express it. The empathy is rooted in your personal experiences. You have to experience the things in order to understand why you're insecure, why you're vulnerable, and why you need to heal and grow from those things. Then you will get the ability to guide others through what you've embodied once you've gone through it. But on the other hand, Chiron stressed expression comes off like this. Hyper-awareness of being perceived, in the first house, by the way. Hyper-awareness of being perceived. Sensitivity to criticism, feeling different or exposed, oscillating between shrinking and overcompensating. Okay, listen, my whole life I've been all this. And so like I just am getting to a point where I finally understand why, and I understand how to not express myself this way. It is such a beautiful and just like it is just such a beautiful moment to be in, to have this understanding, to have reached this level of aha, which is exactly why I have created this community. Chiron in the first house does not mean that you have a broken identity. It simply just means that identity becomes a major part of your healing journey. Hi. Chiron in the first here. Anybody else? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the discussions if you can totally relate. So here we go. Let me just go into the example. I've kind of been giving it throughout this whole lesson already, but let me just break it down. Leo rising for me sets the door. Visible baseline, warm entry. Then I have moon in the first. Emotional state is visible on the surface. Instinctive responses register very quickly for me, and my face and energy shift, and people will feel it. That's why in my videos, in other videos outside of this community, I do other content on just mental health and positive psychology and things like that, the nervous system and things like that. So my face and energy shift and people feel it. And so there'll be times where I can be like talking about how you can be great, and then I can shift into like, stop giving those people your attention. And it's like, damn, she just got really serious, because then my emotion comes in and I feel it. I literally feel it in my body, like, will y'all stop? And so I don't mean it, or like, I'm not trying to be mean when I do that in those videos, and my face changes very quickly, or I get kind of stern. And I have had people that, you know, I'm close to or whatever be like, yeah, well, I don't like to be yelled at in motivational videos, or I don't like to be made it seem like I'm not doing things right. And it's like, I'm not trying to make it seem like that. It's just that my face and my energy shifts when I feel it in my body, when I feel the emotions in my body, and I can't help it. My Chiron in the first, like I just said, being seen is a part of my growth. Learning to take up space without self-doubt is as well. And so this combination is creating expressive presence, emotional transparency, and I'm deeply shaped by my lived experience, which is why I have to have experiences. I have to stumble. I've stumbled and made a lot of mistakes, but it has gotten me exactly to where I am because of the fact that my depth is shaped by my lived experience. And well, I can just like add a little another layer to that for me because I am a Scorpio sun. It's all about depth. So I need that depth to understand my lived, like I live for it. It's crazy to me. But let's go ahead and contrast Bob Marley. Remember, he's a Sagittarius rising. We do have that time disclaimer in there about him being born at 2:30 a.m. But listen, Sagittarius rising, horizon focused, message driven, forward moving, larger than local space, larger than life. He just opened up for us everything that we should be. Like he literally gave us our main thing to say, like, don't worry, be happy. Like people know that as a Bob Marley song because like the way that he sang it and the energy that he put out when he was sending that message, really giving that message, let us know, don't worry about a thing because every little thing is going to be all right. And like when I even say that, I get emotional because we need people like him. I'm not necessarily like him in that way. I'm a little bit more stern. I'm a little bit more like, get it through your freaking heads. But he's just like, hey, listen, I got this expansive worldview and expansive energy, and I'm just have a message-driven presence. His whole presence was his message, and it's so beautiful. He's just such a beautiful individual. So even without multiple planets in the first house, the rising sign still absolutely defines that field. Empty first houses are not inactive by any means. That planet is going to show where your identity travels in the house. So if your door is Capricorn, Saturn manages that house. And where Saturn lives in your chart shows where your identity is directed. Let me say that again. Wherever, even if your first house is empty, wherever your chart ruler lives, that is where your identity is going to be directed. We are going to explore that fully next week. And that'll bring me to the kind of the closing, the reflection for this week. Oh, I have loved this and I can't wait to talk to you guys about this. I have a lot of like discussion type posts now. Foundations is a little bit less discussion, but as we go on the weeks, we have more and more discussion coming up. I do have a cheat sheet for this week for all those constructive and stressed expressions because I know it was a lot and I know you probably want to look at it and reference yourself and your loved ones and celebrities or whoever else. So I do have that sheet. Make sure you go look at it in the community. It will only be available there. Here's your reflection questions prompts for this week. Which description felt most accurate for you? Even if you know where your first house what's your first house is, what planets felt like they should have been you or how you identify versus what really is there. But tell me also who stands in your doorway. Think to yourself or write it down, who stands in your doorway? And are you actually surprised? Are you surprised based off of the expressions that is the planet that is in your first house? Are you surprised at all? And then where has your presence been a part of your growth? Also, where's your Chiron lie? Just because I love it. Tell me that too. Think about that. Okay, I have loved this week so very much. Please let me know what comments, questions, concerns that you have about this week. Week 1, we talked about what the first house is. This week, we talked about what happens when something lives there. And next week, we are going to be talking about how the first house gets activated over time. That's why it's called the footsteps, because next week, we're talking about what happens when things start to get moving. You will not want to miss that one. It is my absolute favorite. As always, be intentional, be faithful, and be humble. And I love you. Bye, guys.